Well, we wanted to make sure that everybody had one. Hello! This is Blackstar along with Narcogen and Funkmon. How you doing? We're going to be doing a little quick run-through on the Destiny 2 social space, which is the farm. So we'll fire up the director here. Yeah, the only thing left. Nobody's done. And there'll be a lot less shooting. So let's jump into this right away.
The farm, which is the social space in the European Dead Zone, the last football pitch in the galaxy.
Actually, Narc, I think you're party lead. I think you got to do it.
I know. That's why I'm doing it.
Oh, okay. I can't believe they couldn't come up with a more imaginative title, but that's just me.
It's the farm, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's not as imaginative as the tower, but it's pretty good.
I will say they're keeping up with the same theme, but yeah, as far as the imaginative thing, they're not winning any points.
The farm upstate. Everybody's going to see that puppy that died when they were a kid.
Mm-hmm. Does this mean we get to take out Old Yeller?
Once Jellybean comes back with a beer, I would like to hear why she didn't like the first game.
So that's a complicated question to answer, actually.
All right, don't answer it. Never mind.
Oh, that's awful.
No, go ahead.
That's typical. That's typical.
No, you've hurt me. I'm really wounded now. Actually, I don't think I can go on.
Wow. Okay. Just stab him in the heart with one of those sewing needles, or knitting needles or something.
So I'm not a big fan of MMO style games, and the only one I've ever really gotten into is actually GTA 5.
Oh God, really?
Yeah. Because it doesn't put any... Because you are just some arsehole, like, flying about Los Santos. It's
my God,
really
invisible wall.
It's really upfront about its aesthetic sort of thing. I felt when I was playing Destiny, I felt like nothing I did had any import. I could go through a mission and then I could go back straight through that same mission. Nothing changed. The story didn't grab me. The grinding was poor. I actually didn't really enjoy the gameplay very much either.
Really?
I felt like I could get that gameplay in other games.
No, would you like something more like Saints Row that's just a little bit, crazy and off the cuff where you can be wild and stuff? At least
not in my experience.
No, like you can't get the same gameplay from GTA 5, but I felt like the shooting, running, jumping, standing still, I was like, I could get this elsewhere. I don't need to be grinding through and doing the parts that I don't enjoy to get this part. And I think that's it. It didn't, for me, that gameplay is not meditative enough to forget that I'm always grinding for points.
Well, what's really...
Were you playing alone?
Yeah, that was one of the questions I was going to have.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I would say that's it. The thing that unifies a lot of the people who don't enjoy whatever kind of experience they get from Destiny
is solitary.
Is that it's solitary.
Now, there's a really good argument to be made in most games. Like, if playing co-op is the only way to have fun, then it's not the game; it's your friends.
Yes, exactly.
But when we're talking, right, I don't buy it for Destiny.
Well, no, I don't agree with it, but everyone says that.
Good. With the co-op, it makes the game. If we try to play Borderlands 2, it's nigh impossible. You can't play Halo 3 with Narc because of the ping. It's literally impossible to play.
You can barely play it with anybody.
Right, it's not good. But when you play... Destiny is almost like you're in the room.
Yeah.
So you can sit around and shoot the shit while someone is doing random crap, and if you were hanging out with them in real life, you'd just be watching baseball and drinking beer or something. But now, because the person's over in Asia, you find relic iron.
That's interesting that you say that, because I really wasn't into Destiny pre-release. I was kind of thinking this is not the game for me, and then PAX 2014 I happened to play a little bit of Destiny early with Mig and Claude and Shishka and a bunch of other people, and I was like, this is grabbing me. And we were all sitting in the same room. Some of us were, there was only like, I think 2 games, so only a couple of us were playing at any one time, and just drinking beers, and I was like, yeah, this is fun. This is something I could enjoy doing. But I've never been able to replicate that feeling in the game itself with me.
Yep. And I think that's probably because it's the enjoyment is reflective with your entertainment, your feeling with your friends, and your socializing aspect of it, rather than anything in the game itself that is unique.
It's conversation, but even the stuff, in the game, in terms of there are a lot of gameplay challenges that it presents.
Flares?
Ships landing. No, it's probably somebody scoring a goal in the football pitch. It sets off fireworks.
Oh, joy.
Oh,
that's not going to get
soccer.
tiresome. Oh boy!
Like a lot of the gameplay, the way it works in terms of elemental burns and shields, it prioritizes having people use different abilities and use different weapons to the point where you need to say, "Hey, has anybody got a solar gun to take out that guy with a solar shield?" and to revive each other when you die. So that you don't lose your progress and have to restart from a checkpoint. So that you can do very badly and mess up, but as long as there's one person left alive to bring everybody back, you won't lose your progress. So there's a lot of ways in which the experience of playing alone is just not the same, even though it's composed of a bunch of the same parts. Or even just to play like with strangers, because at some point they added matchmaking.
I love that fire pit.
They added matchmaking to the strikes, so that now before, where some people used to deliberately go into a strike and take it on as an extra challenge to do it alone, now it would matchmake you, and you had to play it with strangers you probably weren't speaking to because you never want to enter a public chat in these games.
Not mostly. I will say this, that I have had some great experiences. In fact, there were a bunch of times where we were playing up against teams where either they were kicking our ass or we were kicking theirs. And we actually invited them into the chat environment. And some of them turned out to be really cool people. In fact, we still have them on our friends list. And I think if more of those experiences were the rule rather than the exception,
this water wheel
it would be
useless.
a lot. Yeah, of course it is. Would be a lot more of an enjoyable and an expanding group of players that you could play with more often.
Look at the water wheel.
Well, yeah, it's not actually functional. I gotta say though, all of this is pretty much my expectations. A lot of people jumping around like Mexican jumping beans in kind of a.
Why you gotta qualify it?
Yeah, it's basically the most popular of beans. Give credit where credit is due. In a kind of like camping type environment that's rusty and overblown, and if I could sit in these chairs, I'd probably be more impressed.
This area,
we don't know it yet.
Okay,
honestly.
None of us have been here. This is all brand new to us.
Yeah, the lore in the first game was spread out among all of these online trading cards that you would get for achieving various things, and I really didn't like it, and I'm way behind in reading it. No, some people do.
Some people are crazy.
Right. And
some people eat Marmites.
I actually figured Jelly Bean would be one of the ones, because Jelly, you were super into the Halo story.
I love the Halo story, so I even was one of the editors of the Halo story page.
Yeah,
you would love the condensed versions, or the ones where people would take the Grimoire cards and put them in either stories or text that were a lot more legible.
Well, I think fundamentally for me, story has to affect characters, and there are no interesting characters in Destiny.
Well, I think the whole point.
I did not find any interesting characters in Destiny. There was nobody that I was going, oh my goodness, if this thing happens, this unknown threat that is being hinted at by the story, then it will affect the characters that I'm interested in. I had no motivation to go and find out what the Grimoire cards were saying.
What about Cade?
I don't even know who that is.
Well, Nathan Fillion.
Yes. So this is
they didn't add any characters until Taken King expansion.
Yeah, see that's the thing. So if you didn't stick,
they used some of the
with
characters that were in there, but actually added personalities to them in the expansions, and people do really like them. So did you see the trailer for Destiny 2?
I did, and is that the one with the loot, the robot that's talking about loot?
So he's one of the characters, and they all have their own personalities.
That was an advertisement, not the.
Oh well, whatever. Whatever, the stupid ad. But you can see some of the characterization they put into them, and I think that they're being flanderized, and I don't actually like the characters, but a lot of people do.
But the thing is, they had already asked me to invest in a game without putting those parts in, and that I just don't have. I don't have the time these days to, wait for a game to get good. And this is my problem with Mass Effect Andromeda. I'm sure that if Mass Effect Andromeda had been given lots of DLCs, it could have become a good game. But I don't have the time for that anymore.
Yep.
Well,
I mean, come on, there's knitting to do.
There's knitting to do, yeah. I'm having to double up right now. I'm knitting and talking. Very
you
hard
should pick up the first game, maybe not. Pick up the first game on Super Sale, and if you
free.
if you can.
I gave my copy of my game away. I gave it to my little sister.
No.
Yeah, I gave it away.
Oh,
I wasn't.
Maybe we can
You
get
should tell
her
her
in
to
it.
play it on stream then.
Yeah, we could get her through it.
I don't know if she has Destiny 2. I don't know how it works that you're in Destiny.
Well, the beta
2.
was free this week. Anybody could join in since
Oh, yeah,
Friday.
you can
Yeah,
download
that's
the
not.
beta,
I
but
was
there's no
hoping it was
story,
gonna
so
be
don't bother.
a WoW thing where they would just sell expansion after expansion, and Destiny 2 would just be a bigger than average expansion, and that buying it would always give you everything. Instead, they basically made a hard break, and so this is a new game, totally separate from the old one. All of your collected gear and stuff is gone. So Destiny 1 as a game still exists, and you can still play it, but I'm guessing most people will not be.
Not to mention Trials is gone.
But you could.
There was a mixed reception to Destiny that they've made that hard break, because I was under the impression that it was going to be one ever expanding game.
Yeah.
I
so
think
what I'm
so.
worried about.
People were complaining about some fundamental things in Destiny that they've slowly been changing in the expansions to the point where the latest expansion, I would say, the latest expansion, it was almost completely, other than the shooting mechanics, it's almost a totally different game.
Yep.
It feels like a Destiny 2.
They tweak a lot. They tweak a lot. Especially in
they
terms
want
of
to
the
tweak
grinding,
even
the
more.
Advancement.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's no grinding. You can go through, you can go through the newest expansion without grinding. I think a single minute.
Wow, there's a light you can turn on and off. Wow.
Unless you're Cody Miller, in which case everybody is required to grind.
Right. He chooses to grind and then complains
Dado
about
wants a list of all the top grinders, so we can gauge our grinding versus other people's grinding. So without that, we can't quantify your grinding skills. Yeah, I gotta say, there's nothing here that is new or I mean, we've seen the photos and whatnot, so I mean, I pretty much knew what to expect, and I'm not into football.
You can walk on the wires
or soccer that much, so
there's no vendors.
You see me?
Yeah,
you're up there.
This is something that I think is very important in Destiny, from what I've been reading and so on and so forth. What dances can you do?
Oh, all kinds of stuff.
All right. Well,
in fact, these are the new ones.
All right, you're looking at Black Star's stream,
I'm looking
right?
at Black Star, yeah.
So that's all right.
I believe we're all EXO women, aren't we? Oh no.
Yes. Yeah, we're all.
No,
chicks.
Narc isn't.
Yeah, he's a chick. He's totally.
Yeah, but he's
chick.
not an EXO.
Oh,
no.
Looks like a Woken or something.
Yeah, Woken or human. Probably.
I love the fact that I can take a knee now. That's cool.
Oh, look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but there's a ton of emotes that they added into the game. I think you'd be very surprised at how much the game has changed in a way that you would like, Gilly, if you were to play through it.
Especially with the dances.
I, on the other hand, have thought, and people think I'm trolling.
No.
I, on the other hand, have thought every change they made to this game, with the exception of a big shotgun buff that happened around the second expansion, has been bad.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, see, the problem was that the game supposedly started out with a very, very high damage rate and a lot of weapons, and that pretty much made it impossible to go any higher with everything. So what they had to do was start lowering everything bit by bit. So if you think about it, how long it takes to actually kill anything or how hard it is to actually defeat enemies, that became more difficult and took longer. And because apparently the way that the weapons were designed, whenever they wanted to adjust them, they had to adjust the entire class. They were limited by what they could actually do. So instead of, say, this singular gun is too powerful, let's change it.
Didn't have properties on their own?
No, they did to an extent, or should I say they did it with a slight...
philosophical.
Yes.
Strict object inheritance.
It was almost like a variation on a theme. You could actually push it plus or minus a certain degree, but when you wanted to make, drastic changes about the fundamental way that the weapon works, it was per class, which means you affected all of the same weapons in the same class. So that ticked off a lot of people. So you would constantly have these reevaluations.
It's not just making the guns less powerful. It would be having the clip size, making the recoil go to the left or the right.
All of the
It would
components.
literally make the guns less fun to use.
Well, I'm equating the time to kill and the power with the fun of it, because when it takes forever to kill things, that's not enjoyable. When every single thing becomes a bullet sponge, that's not an enjoyable experience for anyone. So yeah, that goes without saying. But simply because of how the way that the mechanic worked before, it was rather difficult for them to balance it. So they kept pushing it back and forth. At some point, shotguns became, quote-unquote, the meta, and a lot of people got really frustrated with it, because that means that for the Crucible environments, for some people, in the Crucible environments and the competitive environments for Trials of Osiris, it became very problematic, because you would end up with 2 or 3 top-flight weapons, which everyone had, and the gameplay just completely ticked off people because it became myopic. It was a singular experience, and it came down to anybody with a laggy connection or a poorer connection than the next guy would lose every encounter. Everyone walked around a corner and had a shotgun to the face and died instantly. There was no tactics, there was no skill, and then sticky grenades also became a big factor. And unfortunately, Bungie actually at one point couldn't even nerf the shotguns too much. What they had to do is nerf the ammunition. They made sidearms the only one that when you die, you kept your ammo if you had a sidearm, but you lost it with every other weapon.
That sounds extremely frustrating.
That's only Crucible.
Yeah,
but
it was.
The people
it was
who play
very
Crucible
frustrating.
regularly were asking for things like
weirdos.
that.
No,
they were so ticked about so many things that when you have to nerf the ammunition for an entire string of weapons instead of the weapon itself, you know that you have a problem. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So supposedly with the upgrade with Destiny 2,
the players of the Crucible.
Every problem with every game is the players. So for Destiny 2, supposedly they've changed it so that every weapon is its own class. So they will be able to make individual tweaks as needed or requested, rather than affecting the entire structure of many weapons all at once. So that should be an improvement. But I will have to say that so far with the beta gameplay, I can't say that I'm, or should I say, had a really thrilling experience with a lot of it. In fact, a lot of feedback that I know that people have been putting up that is negative, Bungie apparently replied to saying, oh, well, this build is months old. Oh, we've checked and fixed and corrected all these things and whatnot. And I don't know how I feel about that personally. That seems either one of two things. It makes me ask, well, if this is a build that's several months old, why are we getting one several months old? Why don't we have the latest build? The vast majority of this was all distributed digitally. It's not like they had to burn millions of copies to a disc and it would have cost them tons of money. Why aren't we getting the latest build?
Because that's the way production chains work. The latest build is not stable. This is the latest stable build.
Well, if they're still months into this where they haven't gotten a stable version of it yet, that does not make me,
do have a stable
confident.
Version of it. The stable version of it is this one.
Yeah, well, if this is months old and they haven't gotten a stable one yet, after that, yeah, that has me worried.
There is nothing to be worried about. That is how everybody works. Nobody brings out to demo at E3 or for a public demo. It's like, yeah, we just compiled this last night. Can't tell you if it's going to work or not, but let's just go.
No. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the ones where they realized and started tweaking everything.
I think
why don't we have the tweaked version?
They're just throwing that in there in the new builds, and if they had to, they could probably put the weapon tweaks on this one.
I think maybe it's just lip service.
It wouldn't be worth it.
Yeah, maybe. But I just think it's also lip service, because how can they prove it? How can they say, oh, yeah, no, we fixed that, honest? They start scribbling. They start scribbling around notes and saying, oh, okay, now we know what to change.
You're gonna email Deej and say, "Prove it."
Yeah, Deej, show me where the values that you changed between this and that.
Oh yeah, like that's gonna do anything. Remember
yeah.
that time that they changed the auto rifles by 4.2%, but
yeah.
instead changed them by 0.0042%?
42%, yeah, exactly. So
or whatever.
Well, not to mention that even with the changes, it didn't change the time to kill, and that's the big thing. A lot of these changes really actually don't change the time to kill values very much. In fact, somebody was just recently evaluating the bonuses on the warlocks, where you can dump those areas of effect where you can actually have either a health bonus or a damage bonus. And data already compiled that the damage bonus is beyond negligible. You should just use the health because it doesn't actually.
Crucible.
Yeah, it doesn't change any of the burst values. It still takes the exact same amount of shots to kill a target. So it's like, what's the point? So.
Earlier you said, the problem with any game is the players. And I think for me, that kind of is the thing about these Destiny-style games. The new one that BioWare is going to bring out, Arcade, what's it called?
Anthem.
Weird
name.
They're both nouns.
You're trying to bring out this big, open world game that lots of people are in. But the thing is not everybody wants the same thing from a game.
Exactly.
If you want the narrative experience, it's really hard to deliver something that's going to get the people who like the narrative experience, the people who really like to sort of sit and obsessively tweak data about whether or not it's better to have the area of effect on damage or on or whatever, that's a really big ask, and I think it's too ambitious personally. You're never going to be able to make a game that is going to satisfy a Call of Duty player and a Mass Effect player equally well.
Oh, never.
I don't think they were ever trying to please the Mass Effect player. I think I may have wanted them to make a full-on talky RPG on top of your shooty bang bang stuff, but I don't think they were ever going to do that, and I don't think that plays to their strengths.
Really, they ever really wanted to please anyone. I think they build the games that they want to play.
What I objected to was the same kind of thing you objected to, which is that once you start to make all these missions repeatable, I'm like, wait a minute, how am I supposed to assign any meaning whatsoever to defeating this boss when you just go in? You're expected to do it every week.
Oh, well, not only that.
This World of Warcraft type thing.
After a certain point, you can actually go to an entire level that is supposedly is now completely changed and covered in snow, and then you can immediately jump back and go to that exact same level again 6-8 months earlier that's completely different. And you can play those things back to back. So
I say you got to give the... I allow that conceit, but I allow the conceit.
It's a little jarring no matter what you do, but yeah.
I also allow it, but it took some getting used to. That's all I'll say.
Mm-hmm. John likes pizza. Well, you know what? So do I. So at the conclusion of this, I think I'm gonna have one. Pizza, that is.
Oh man, I want pizza.
Yeah, not a John.
Mm-hmm. No, probably gonna go with someone else.
Out of bounds.
Mm-hmm. Now the other thing, speaking of out of bounds and this soccer field as a whole. I think it's kind of frightening considering the state of the world that is currently in, where we're spending our free time doing this. Don't we?
We don't
have
really
better things to do?
know a whole lot about the state of the world, really. We just know that some aliens blew up our crap.
Right, but
everyone needs some free time, man.
Yeah, but see in the distance, I'm
this
assuming...
is like that episode of Lost where they built the golf course.
Oh, that's a Traveler, isn't it?
Oh, please, that was so wrong too.
No, that's a piece of it that fell off.
Wait, the Traveler exploded?
No.
I think it is.
That's not the Traveler. It's a piece of it. It's called the Shard, and apparently that was a bit that fell off when the Warmind Rasputin made an attack on the Traveler when it was of the opinion that it was trying to leave. The lore that they built up presumably gets the idea that the Traveler has been moving across the galaxy or galaxies and uplifting various races. And ironically, the function you're best suited for after you get uplifted is defending the Traveler against its many enemies, some of which, as we've seen, were races previously uplifted by the Traveler,
and then abandoned. Yeah.
So we get the idea here that the reason why the story takes place here and now with the Traveler on Earth is that a human AI was able to prevent it from leaving. and that's why it's still here, and that's why all of its enemies catch up to us, and why we're fighting against them.
I think
Now,
you're
you see,
retconning a bit.
With that
No.
very short description, you have got me interested in Destiny again. That's an interesting story.
But to get
Like,
that,
That
you've got
story
to piece together dozens
started
of these
in the
Grimoire
first
cards.
expansion.
Yep.
Some
Yep.
of as well as the expansions, because none of that is in the vanilla release whatsoever.
Yeah, now there's been a consolidation of those stories into something far more easily digestible somewhere. I mean, somebody's actually either copied
Ishtar
over.
Academy.
Yeah. As in somebody actually made web pages that have all the Grimoire stories and assembled them together somewhere that Jilly could,
And
could
so,
peruse.
there's even YouTube channels that they make voiced versions of them. They do readings of them and stuff like that.
Yeah, so maybe that might be something you would look into if you were so inclined. That
But-
might pique your interest.
But very little of it comes through in the actual playing of missions themselves, and like throwaway lines that Ghost gives you.
See, that's
you know,
frustrating.
here and there. Yes, it is.
Oh, very.
And that's why they're not doing Grimoire cards for this one. They're apparently putting it all into traditional cutscenes and lore that you get from items, kind of Dark Souls style. Basically, I think they just didn't have the discipline to do it the way Dark Souls did it, was to just put it in the lore descriptions for each item. And so instead they did, well, why don't we have unlockables that you can get for doing various things, and then we can have longer stuff. And they put a lot of stuff into Grimoire cards that was very, very long. And they got very, very wedded to this trading card graphic metaphor.
Yeah, which was really awful.
Even when the text they were showing was way too long for that. And so, so you had this grid page of trading cards, and you're scrolling. You get this tiny window on your desktop screen that you're scrolling through, like you're reading, like you have a 27-inch monitor in front of you, but you're trying to read a book on your iPhone.
Oh,
It's
please.
Like, why are you doing this to me? You know,
every one of those things needed to come with its own monocle, because that was the only way that you could actually see any of the text that you were trying to read. It was sad.
Wasn't it also something that primarily you would read on your second device as well through Xbox?
Yes,
Glass?
because it's.
I think they tried it.
You have to. It's not
Yeah.
available in game at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to
They,
use an iPhone app or a web browser.
yeah.
Yeah, I
They
always found
tried
that really
to
bizarre.
spread it across multiple access points. They were trying to push, their own apps. And sadly enough, the inventory management alone ballooned to such an extent that people had to make third-party browser plugins so that people could actually manage them on a computer instead of actually in-game, because nobody
iOS apps
nobody
and,
could spend the
browser
time
extensions.
managing their own junk. You would literally have to log onto a computer, fire up a browser, go to a website, and say, okay, now here's all my crap. Now I got to take care of it, because for each of these things you got 108 items each, not including all the other consumables and extras. It was a tumultuous pain.
I do not blame the game for that.
Do you, really?
That I blame player. Oh yeah, absolutely. For example, my friend probably last.
You're blaming player behavior.
That's better. Yes, when he gets a gun that's better than his last gun, guess what? He deletes the last gun. And another thing is,
well, I do that too sometimes. Although
Yeah,
I do collect a lot of crap. I mean, my Destiny 1 vault is still pretty close to full as of right now.
Oh,
you're right.
mine
I
is
collect-
full. Mine's been
I
full for
collect
weeks.
as well, but I don't need to go back, and I never need to go back to the vault and grab the stuff because I've got the good stuff on me.
Oh, I don't think that's part of it. I think it's the fact that when you're full, and when your postmaster is full, you've got to juggle everything that you possibly can to clear that out, because it's full of junk you don't need or want.
Right,
That's the thing that drives me crazy.
You're saving way too much.
I think it's when you have to incentivize play, when you have to make sure that people are still playing by giving them things at random opportunities. Your game is not compelling enough.
It's not, and to be honest, I want them to take away.
Thanks for that comment, Cody Miller. But
What I never liked was the random repetitive aspect of it, where you were like playing a Vegas slot machine. Where every activity gave you a potential reward, and if you didn't get it, you had to repeat that activity. I
don't mind that.
I hate that.
Let me tell you why.
Simply because having to do it a billion times to get a single thing, where I would rather have acquired resources or in-game items in exchange for what I need, but Bungie didn't want that. They said, nope, you're going to go up and pull the slot machine and maybe you'll get what you need. And, you didn't get it. Try again next time. I'm sorry, that was too much for how many times you had to do it.
So here's why I'm blaming the players. That's the wrong attitude. I don't think I've ever grinded for a gun in Destiny. I've wanted some guns. I've wanted a special roll on a Vanquisher, and one time I got it.
Wait a minute. We ground for Black Spindle.
Yeah.
Did we?
Yes, we did.
Big time. You saying you got that first try?
Oh no, you're right. Yes, that was a challenge. Yeah, but when it stopped
alcohol.
being
Luke Smith on the last podcast said that was the favorite piece of content he's ever been involved in making.
Well,
yeah.
I sincerely hope he never works in video games again. But
we all know he's
when
a jerk.
that stopped being fun, I would quit. And it was not, and so that's the thing. And I never felt like I needed that gun.
Yeah,
even though I think the raid was built for it.
For grind, I think he's talking about stuff like Imago Loop. Like there was a best version of Imago Loop that was most like the, what was the other one? Not Hawk.
The Fatebringer.
Fatebringer.
You're looking for the Fatebringer roll.
Was the Fatebringer roll of Imago Loop, and you would get it out of the chest in doing this one strike, and so you would get a dozen Imago Loops.
Yep.
But none of them would have these statistics and the perk on it that would make it the best version of itself. And people felt compelled to get it and to
exactly.
content
and there were
not
enjoy
it.
Yeah, there were tons of god-level Crucible weapons, too, that also people ground for to get the perfect one because they felt, completely undergunned facing certain ones where they were getting their asses handed to them because they had a particular role that had particular perks that were better than the ones that they were facing.
And I agree with you completely. And here's why it's their fault. Mm-hmm. They complained about...
Well, they didn't have to do it. It's all their fault. I mean, they didn't have to. They didn't have to do it forcibly.
1.0. If people weren't complaining so much in the first 2 weeks of Destiny 1.0, everyone would have great guns. So think about the launch game.
I know. I got a Gallahorn first week. I still dismantled it.
You're gonna have to explain that logic to me.
Okay, when you look at the launch game, the game that came out at launch, there are almost every gun had a buyable, near perfect roll. You guys had the Narcogen used that forever. That scout rifle. There's the Fatebringer. The Devil You Don't was fantastic. Almost all the vendor roll guns. Right, the hung jury roll on the alphabet soup gun.
Dead Orbit. Mm-hmm.
No. I'm talking about the launch game. It was a Vanguard Quartermaster. It had a 27-round explosive rounds Firefly Field Scout that Narc used constantly. This is a nearly perfect PvE roll, and there were guns with perfect PvP rolls that you could just buy. You didn't have to grind for them.
Yeah,
but everyone, you had to get legendary marks, but.
Yeah, to grind for those
marks or whatever.
But see, that I didn't mind. I don't mind grinding for marks because then you could buy what you wanted. So it kind of negated your argument.
You could do almost anything, though.
Correct.
Destroying stuff you'd already collected.
But everyone complained about how long it took to get these marks. And they complained about not being able to get as many legendary weapons, which were almost all good in Destiny 1.0. They complained about not being able to get very many. So Bungie said, okay, no problem. Here, you can get legendary marks 3 times easier. Also, now every legendary engram is going to decrypt into a legendary gun, so now you're going to get legendary guns 3 times easier. So then they had to balance these. Now everyone's got a legendary gun. Every single gun is legendary now. Anything worthwhile is legendary, so they have to make the good guns incredibly rare in order to balance that out. But at the launch game, you could grind for the best guns, which is not even really grind. If you played the game enough, you would get the best guns, guaranteed. And when you got a legendary engram, it was good.
Right.
But because the players complained so much, Bungie had to ruin it.
It wasn't just that, because keep in mind, they were rebalancing things so often that the gun that you loved or thought was great suddenly would become crap, and you would
Right,
be
'cause the
going
players complained.
well, yeah, because they complained about the aspects of it. And then Bungie said, "All right, well, we're going to change this entire class," and then it also meant that guns that you never ever thought about picking up, like pulse rifles. I mean, come on, there was a time when pulse rifles were the red-headed stepchild of the Destiny weapons vault. Nobody in their right mind would use any of them, and suddenly, oh well, we'll change a couple of things in here, and whoa, suddenly everybody's got a grasp of Malik. So yeah, I mean, it gets adjusted so much. In fact, what really kills me is that, I mean, my first weeks of playing the game, I ended up with a friggin' Gallahorn in my inventory. I had no idea what it was. It looked really, really gaudy, and I liked machine guns. I was absolutely terrible with rocket launchers, so I dismantled the damn thing. Next thing I know, it's the end all be all. People wouldn't even let you into Vaulted Glass raids without one. So yeah, and some people didn't even get it year one, and here I am, trashing the damn thing because, yeah, I didn't know what it is. And to be honest, that's what I'm kind of fearful now with Destiny 2. I'm so afraid that if I just destroy any weapon that I end up getting by accident, that one's going to end up being like the super god roll that everyone's going to want and need, and I'm going to feel really, really bad about destroying anything that I end up getting accidentally.
I think you're right.
I'm going to start hoarding out of the gate.
I collect all my guns. I keep old guns because I think, well, what if Bungie rolls it back and this gun is good again?
Well, right, and yeah, so guess what? Inventories balloon when you do that. So
I still have my Crusader ones.
Yep.
Oh,
well, some people do. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the one I think he was talking about. Your Crusader one.
No. It was the A1 RX whatever RLY.
Oh yeah. No, okay. I did get rid of that. But...
Yep. Eventually.
Well, right. Because they nerfed Field Scout. They even nerfed the fucking perk.
Yep. Funk's favorite thing is Field Scout.
Yeah, but speaking of things that, are unknown because the game environment changes, explain light to me, because I never understood that.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Let me go on a rant here. Okay. So the light,
No.
The light's your level, okay? So you're like 20 light at the end of Destiny, and then you can go up to level 30. This is 1.0.
Okay.
But now your light level is different from your actual level. Now your actual level is based on experience, because all the people online said, well, it's dumb that your level is based on gear and not experience. So then Bungie said, no problem. We'll make your level based on experience, not gear. By the way, now your level doesn't matter, and the only thing that matters is this light level, which is your gear level.
So
everybody they homogenize them. Yeah.
I still don't understand. I don't.
Light levels. If your gear is good, you have a higher light level, and the higher your light level, the higher your level is.
Year one, basically, there were numeric values that evaluated your character that were split out into multiple options. Now they've homogenized them together into a single one, which is like you see the numbers over Narc's head. He's a level 20. That's what it is. In fact, if I go to my screen now, you can see over here. They're calling this now power. So my power is 200. And they've actually, these ones were a lot higher. They've changed these things over here that used to count to how often your grenade would recharge, your super would recharge, and your melee would recharge. Now they've changed these things to resilience, increasing the amount of damage you take before dying, mobility, your movement speed, and recovery, which is
none of that has to do with
how quick you get your stuff back. Yeah, no, all of the light and other values has basically been quantified into this one number here. Which they used to call light. Yeah, which is now.
But when vanilla launched, when you experienced it, when vanilla launched, it used to be that there were two kind of steps. There were small gradients, which would be light, and then big ones that were the level. But then you reach a level cap, and there isn't any place more to go after that. But
yeah, you would hit a ceiling.
You would then increase your light level by upgrading equipment. And there were various ways of doing that. When it started out, it was just you got rid of the old pieces and you got new ones. And then there was an upgrade mechanic that said, well, you had to grind certain activities to get some upgraded materials, and that would improve the ones you had. And then they made
which is gone now.
Yeah, which is gone now. And then they made it so that if you want to keep an item you have, but you get an item of the same type, which is of higher light, then you use an infusion mechanic, which says, let this piece I like eat the better one that I just got that I don't want, and so I improve my light level. And that also ends up having a cap, which is as high as you can go, which is usually either at or slightly above the recommended light level for the most recent endgame activity, whatever that is, whether it's a raid or something like Prison of Elders.
Right.
So it's just another way of talking about level. The weird thing is that they also kept the Anachronous level moniker as well. So you'd always look and you'd say, well, I'm a level 40 and I'm a light level 380, and what do these two things mean? Like, one of them kind of means something only at the very beginning of a new character's journey, and then the other one takes over to the point where
once you actually reach
that matters. Yeah, the only thing that matters is light level.
Yeah.
And it's also, since there's no difficulty slider, it's the only way of deliberately making any activity hard for yourself than it otherwise would normally be, because you can choose to equip weapons and armor that are lower light level than your possible max, and lower possibly than the recommended minimum for the activity you're in. But if it goes too low, you'll actually reach a point where enemies are too high level for you to even damage them.
Right.
So that's where you end up having, like sometimes you have to carry another player through something, because you've got to be within, say 20 points or so light of another character for you to be able to share the same activities without somebody either feeling something is way too hard or way too easy.
Okay. Well, final thoughts, because I have a feeling this is going to end in a couple minutes.
Yeah, they'll still be kicking us out of the farm shortly, I guess.
No marathon logos
that you've seen. Guess
not
who
that I've
did
seen.
survive? And in fact, what I find hysterical is that somebody was going to complain about this, saying that no matter what happens in the tower or how things are going to go down, you know that Eververse is going to survive to do microtransactions for all the Destiny fans who want to buy stuff. And what do we see? A giant tarp with EL on it. Surprise, surprise, surprise.
I think that's a V, but it definitely
Where?
looks more like an L.
Where's that a V? It's EL. What do you mean EV?
Eververse.
Oh, is that what it's supposed to be? It looks like an L.
Oh yeah, it definitely looks like an L.
Yeah, okay. All
No
right.
debate here.
Yeah, but it's supposed to be a V.
I'm sure it's supposed to be a lot of things. It's supposed to be fun, too, but you know what? I'm going to hold on to my money. Thank you very much.
Oh yeah, so they added microtransactions, but they're not bad.
I read that story.
People probably complained about them, but they're not bad, and you can get everything that's in the microtransactions through just playing the game as little rewards.
Right, you don't have to. It's just a question of time, how much you want to invest in it and how good the RNG gods will look upon you.
And the microtransactions are purely cosmetic.
Yeah,
and
there's no play to win or anything, so yeah.
They're not even like desirable cosmetics. If you get one of these things and someone's like, "Oh, I got the Thriller Dance," no one says, "Wow, you're cool. You have the Thriller Dance." It's just like, "Oh, cool. I guess he's got the Thriller Dance." No one cares.
Yeah. Not like they're selling Imago loops. So, okay, well, thanks everyone for watching. Hopefully, Jilly, I love the fact that suddenly, one of Narc's rants actually got you interested. I'm like, really? That's cool. So hopefully you get a chance to peruse that online. No. Usually that dissuades people from ever using the internet ever again. But I'd like to thank Jilly Bean for staying with us on this one. I am Blackstar, along with Narcogen and Funkmon. Please stay with us when Destiny 2 comes out. We're going to be definitely sticking with it. Sadly enough, despite its flaws, it's still one of our favorite games to play, so don't get us wrong. We still enjoy it immensely. And if anybody's interested, we are also going to be doing a new Let's Play on Sundays of Alien Isolation. So please tune in then. Check out our channel at rampancy.net on our website, as well as YouTube's channel of rampancy.net.
Can you say the reason behind doing the Alien Isolation?
I'm going to totally scare the pants off me because I'm too scared to do it alone. And yeah, I pretty much heard you were the same, so I thought maybe we could go through it together and Jilly could laugh at us screaming like little girls.
Oh yeah, this is gonna be fun.
Yeah. I thought the whole point of me being there was that when your high-pitched screams happened, I was the fall guy or fall girl.
Yeah,
that's why we had Mal on earlier today. So when I ripped ass, I could just that's Mal stretching, no problem.
Sounds like a plan. So thanks for watching, and tune us in then.
Okay, should we go to orbit or should we wait for him to kick us out?
Yeah, let's wait for him to kick us out. Maybe it'll be a meteor strike or something.